What's up,
Hello.
you guys? We have toys.
We got some new toys.
Testing. We needed better audio. It was like, it's not good. We're going to start probably putting this on a podcast at some point. We need to have better audio for that.
Yeah, so we're looking to move this well, not move it completely, but add this to a podcast.
So a new
So it's going to be
so you can listen to it in your car.
a daily podcast. Yeah. So we want to be able to make it available because our in Facebook land where this is posted, even YouTube, it kind of could get lost.
Well, and it's all video, and so it's kind of hard to do that when you're driving or when you're trying to just listen to something when you're doing something.
But when you're doing podcasts, you're specifically looking for things, and we thought this would be. Why not? I mean, it's already being recorded.
Why not be everywhere?
Right. so but we needed to improve some things, and so we went ahead and did this.
So welcome to day one of What is Love? Oh, that's not what we're doing. Every time I was writing out all of the stuff for this week, what is love? All I could hear in my head is, what is love? Baby, don't hurt me.
That's funny. I heard Tina Turner.
What's love got to do?
Exactly.
Yeah. We've been having fun with these microphones too. On Saturday night, we came in here to test them out. And we were like, let's look up some sound effects we could put on this. Because we actually bought a mixer too to go with it. And so we have all these fun toys. So we were real crazy. Right on Saturday night, this is what we do.
Yeah.
We go into our studio on Saturday night, get crazy, listening to sound effects and talking to ourselves in our microphone.
We listened to some good music though.
Yeah, we listened to music, and there were some really good sound effects. We found some really great intro music for some of the other projects that we're working on, so that was fun. Hey, good morning, Monica.
Good morning, Monica.
What's happening? It is Tuesday. That is true.
Can you hear me? Okay. Can you hear us?
Testing. How does our audio sound, Monica? We were just talking about how we have new mics and equipment to make sure our audio is better because it's been lacking. What do you think?
Yeah, because I went back over our show on Saturday. It was a great show and everything, but we were getting some sort of feedback.
Yep.
So
we'll dial it in.
We'll get it all fixed. But no, man, you guys. So was it about last month?
6 weeks ago.
Well, yeah,
exactly,
I went.
6 weeks ago.
I went and got my the first COVID shot, right? And then I was supposed to go back 3 weeks or whatever later, and then I got sick.
Yeah, and with not COVID.
Right, and I got sick, so I couldn't
get your second dose.
I couldn't get the second dose. Yeah. Thank you, because I can't finish my sentences.
I was gonna say, you look like you're struggling over there.
Yeah. So we're all feeling better, everything else. So we have to go get our second COVID shot. So that's great because guess what? We're sick again.
So we're smart, and we did it on the same day yesterday. So we're both like, oh, you know what we should do? Because we're geniuses. We should go get our second dose of the COVID shot on that same day. So yesterday, our poor kids, we were like, guys, we got to figure out dinner. We were like, because it just, if
well, you had a bigger reaction than
you
almost had an instant reaction yesterday.
It was weird. Hey, Lanza's here. Hey, Lanza. Good morning.
Good morning.
Oh, a day full of peace and love. We were just talking about how we're coming off of our second vaccine dose yesterday, but you know what? It's not as bad as last time. You had a pretty heavy reaction last time. On the first one. So far so good.
Yeah. So
pray for us.
Yeah,
we need to not be sick anymore.
We're gonna obviously this is not going to stop us from our time with you guys doing these devotionals. We're committed to it. We're going to do the best we can though today.
Oh man, look if we have to crawl in here tomorrow morning in my pajamas, I'll do it. That we need to talk about what God has to say, and we're not going to let it stop.
So if we're a little green or pale, just know that's
just hang with us. It's fine. We're fine. All right, you guys. So listen, today's day one of our devotional all about love. This is amazing. I'm very excited about this because our title, love and heart disease. It sounds probably funny to people who aren't dealing with heart disease or something kind of major. But the thing is that when you come to have to come to terms with something as big as and life-threatening as heart disease, and you're facing your mortality, and we've talked about all these changes that you go through, you kind of lose track of how to how you feel about anything, I think, right? Would you say that's true? Like in your relationships, and then the people around you are like, I don't know how to react to you and everything. So we want to kind of bring it home today with how to get back to, love, like just peace and love. And like Alonza said, peace and love. I love that for this week. And then what God has to say about it. And God is love. So let's talk about what love is and then how to incorporate that into our lives a little more so that we can have more peace. But before we get to that, we got to talk about a little housekeeping, and 2 links that you need to be aware of. So number 1, what?
That's a great sound effect.
Housekeeping. Candygram. I'm dating myself. Okay, so if you're in our private Facebook support group for wellness and overcoming major wellness issues, major health issues, that's our support group for people who want to learn more about nutrition, fitness, stress management, overcoming things. It's an amazing community. If you are, if something's happening to our audio. I don't think it's the microphone. If you're in that community and you're watching in there, there's going to be a link in the description that says StreamYard. And you want to click on that link if you're watching from in there, because otherwise I won't be able to see your name when you comment, and I can't bring your comments up on the broadcast. And I want to be able to do that, be able to know who's commenting. So make sure you click that StreamYard link. It'll just connect your name to our broadcast. It's only for each time. It's not permanent, so don't worry. I'm not going to take your information. And then the other link is for the YouVersion Bible app. That's going to be the text that we're using to support this week's discussion. So, and that is a devotional study that we're using. So if you go and click that link on your mobile device, it will take you to download the app if you haven't already. And if you're on desktop, of course, you don't have to download anything. It'll just take you to the actual devotional study. Either way, you can follow along with us and not have to search around for it.
Right. And if you are just joining us, we just wanted to welcome you. Thank you for taking the time today. Joining us on this broadcast where we discuss, God's word. We discuss what God has to say when it comes to fighting heart disease, the things, the aftermath, the ripple effect of heart disease, right? But if you don't know us, my name is Javie, and this is my wife,
Jessica, and
we are with the Underdog Ninja Foundation. And we stand here on 3 things. That is faith, character, and action. We start here on Tuesday through Saturday mornings, building that one thing, that foundational piece, that faith piece. That's what we stand on. That's what we build on, right? We build our character on, and then we build our life on, but by taking action.
Absolutely.
So those are really our tenets here. Those are the things that we believe, and you'll hear us talk about them quite often. So as you get to know us, you'll get to understand why we believe that faith, character, and action are the key components to fighting this disease.
Yep, absolutely. And we would probably call it FCA, but I don't think that sounds like
no
NSA or something.
Yeah.
I don't think we can acronym that.
No. No, because then they'll get twisted and all that stuff. And then I don't want to follow the trendy trend of acronyms.
The trendy trend, but we could be like faith, character, action. Like we have to say the whole word because we're old school like that. Saying whole words, old school, saying whole words. Nobody does it anymore.
I'm finding out something as we speak.
I know what you're going to say.
Giving you a mic is dangerous. A dedicated mic.
I've never heard myself in my ears like this, so I feel like I should be announcing something. I don't know. I love it though.
I think I've been saying this for years. You're a born voiceover artist.
It's true.
With all the voices you do and
it's
characters you have.
I haven't really let that.
You have all your multiple personalities.
I don't have multiple personalities. I haven't really let the cat out of the bag to, everybody about like all these voices that I do at home. Like I'm always doing accents and like little character voices and things. And my family thinks it's hilarious, but I don't really like.
Oh, one day
it will come out.
Well, I think I think I just added gasoline to the fire here.
With the microphone, probably.
Yeah.
All right, you ready?
Yeah.
You ready to jump in?
Let's get started.
Let's get serious. We're talking about love today. Jeez. I love you. All right, you guys. Are you ready? We're ready, I think. Okay, so today we're talking about patience and kindness. All right, patience and kindness, babe. Patience and kindness.
Thank you.
Okay, love is patient. I believe there is a reason Paul put this first. Patience is one of the most challenging principles to apply because many times you don't have control over how long you will be waiting. The only thing that you can control is how you wait. You wait with kindness. Waiting without kindness is not patience. It is just you waiting. It's not the same as patience. I love that. It's not patience if you're not waiting kindly. It's just you waiting. You ever had a kid just waiting for something? Like they're not patiently waiting. They just have to wait.
Right.
So they're just waiting angrily. Have you ever heard someone yelling, "Are you ready yet?" Or maybe you heard someone say, "Who's taking so long?" Or who's taking so long? Maybe that someone was you or someone was asking you those things. Whoever is saying it is, why can't I talk? Whoever is saying it is waiting, and to a certain extent, being patient because at least they are still waiting. However, those questions don't exactly exude kindness. Oh, I don't know how that, I don't know. Does that make sense?
No.
Okay, so it's not me. Okay, I thought it was me. Okay, now, hey, we don't read ahead on these, okay? We're doing these with you live. Now, if someone was to come up to where you are and say, "Hey, are you okay? This is just taking longer than I expected. So I just wanted to verify that everything was okay." This is a statement of patience and kindness, and it comes from the heart. You can make an adjustment to be patient and kind. I remember years ago when I was waiting for someone to go to dinner, and I had the chance to put this into practice. This was something that was announced months in advance and with plenty of prep time. However, when that night came, some things happened, and I had to wait for this person a lot longer than either of us had planned. I had a choice to make. I am a person who is rarely late. So there was a part of me wondering what was going on. However, I knew I needed to be patient and kind, so I adjusted. I made the adjustment, not only in my head, but in my heart. When I adjusted, my actions were real and genuine. Today, make sure you're to be patient and be kind when you are tempted to be impatient and rude. Walking in love is always the best option. Believers Victory Church staff. It's from the Believers Victory Church staff. Oh, this might be from different people. This one. Sometimes they have one person writing the study, and sometimes they have different contributors. So that's cool. So this should be our confession today. Because love is patient and kind, I will be patient and kind. When tempted to act another way, I will make adjustment in my heart to be patient and kind. I can do it because God has equipped me to do it. I am patient and I am kind. So 1 Corinthians 13:4 says, "Love is patient and kind. Love is not jealous or boastful or proud." And that, go ahead.
Okay, so what does, at least in the context of today, of how they've laid this all out, what does that have to do with heart disease or our daily battle?
Oh, everything.
Right?
Everything.
Right. Well, what I was thinking, first of all, they're how we treat people, how we treat others, okay? How we move along our day feeds into that stress. Right? If we get so caught up in having to have something at the right time, at your timing,
right,
what you perceive to be the correct time, and you become impatient with people and not showing love, that's putting undue stress on you and other people. And one of the other things, secondly, when we are in pain, okay?
Yeah.
When we are suffering, when we are either in physical or mental pain, we seem to be very impatient with people and things. We don't have time for this. We don't have time for that. We forget about being kind to one another.
Right.
But at the same time, we want people to be sympathetic to our pain.
Oh, absolutely. And so it's all of our jobs. I'm going to bring up this comment. Hey, Jeff, what's up? Jeff's amazing. Everybody follow Jeff. Is patience always waiting, or could it be applied in regards to tolerance? Oh yeah. And that's the kindness part. I mean, that's where we bring in, we were talking about heart disease, it's really tolerance, meaning I think more even moving into understanding. So Jeff, you were talking about on your interview last weekend, you were talking about, when you were trying to deal with what you were dealing with, and then having your family also deal with it, having that conversation, communication's everything.
Yeah.
So that will breed tolerance and kindness and understanding and compassion, because when we're dealing with something as big as heart disease, it's like you've said so many times, is that, we don't even know what's going on with ourselves. And then we're supposed to expect everyone else to understand. And when they don't understand, we're like, you don't understand.
Yeah.
And it's like,
so communicating, laying that groundwork.
Yeah.
Right. For the understanding. Will they completely understand? No. Well, but they have somewhat of an idea. It's not coming out of left field, so to speak.
Right.
But also, again, learning how to calm down in the situation,
Right.
in a heated situation, or when you're feeling anxious, helps you to manage your stress, helps
Right.
you to, what I'm trying to get at is, when you are showing kindness and patience to someone else, showing that love and compassion to someone else,
Right.
that is actually feeding you at the same time.
Oh, absolutely.
That's why,
Yeah.
God calls us to love our neighbor. God calls us to, because it is salve to our own wounds and what we are going through.
I don't think we ever really want to be arguing either, argumentative, and that creates stress, that breeds tension. It's stress in our own lives. And so when it's like, what I notice about myself is, a lot of people would say, well, okay, so God's going to make me start to be tolerant and kind to everybody. And so I'm not going to, people are going to just get away with stuff. None of us really wants to hold other people accountable all the time. We don't really want to be the judge. We don't really want to be the person that has to be confrontational. I mean, a lot of us are good at it or okay with it. Like, that's fine. Like, I'm okay with that. I can do it. I'm strong, whatever. Doesn't mean I want to. I would much rather be tolerant and kind and patient and loving, and have that be my spirit in the moment. So it's like, the reason I say that is because it's like permission. It's like when God says, well, why don't you view this person like I do? Why don't you take a minute? Like the study said, hey, I had to wait a really long time for this person. And so my response was, hey, this is taking a lot longer than I expected. Is everything okay? I just want to check on you. Like, this isn't what I expected. I just want to make sure everything's okay. Asking questions is the number one way to diffuse a situation, because you're making space for everyone's viewpoint. You're not making assumptions. You're not making judgments. You're not making accusations. You're asking a question.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and say, look, I genuinely wanted to know, like, I'm not, and you could even say to the person to make it, because a lot of people, they ask questions and they go, what are you trying to say? Well, I'm really asking a question. You could say, I'm really asking because I don't want to make assumptions. I didn't want to make an assumption that something that you were just taking a long time. Like, I genuinely figured you wouldn't do that on purpose. So I was wondering if everything was okay. You could, because it depends on the person. Like, sometimes there's people that know you and they're like, what are you saying? But you could just be communicative. Say, I realize, I know how that sounds, but I don't want to jump to conclusions. Being patient and kind with people's situations, with their experiences, being patient and kind with us being all broken humans who are trying to go through life and messing it up as we go and learning as we go. Everyone's at a different place too. Something we all need to be really patient and kind with is that everybody's at a different place in their journey. I mean, even like, have you ever met someone? This happens to me a lot. Have you ever met someone who is a lot like you, and they're at a different place in their journey that you have been in the past, and acting like you did in the past?
And it's so frustrating.
It's the worst, because you're like, oh, I totally know how you feel. But anything I know dang well, anything I say to you right now, like that whole, if I knew then what I know now, I'd do this. So then you're like, oh, you're a lot like me, and you're doing the same thing, same situation or similar, and you're acting the same way I used to. Oh, you must be this place in your journey. Maybe I should help. And they're never going to listen to you.
Or I feel like when you run across that type of person that's very similar to you, and they're at a different place, you're less tolerant.
And that's what I'm bringing up.
You are so impatient with that person, because you're like, you need to get with it.
Because it mirrors yourself.
Right. Because you didn't like how you were back then.
Looking back.
And so it kind of strikes this irritating chord with you, and it comes out in your emotion.
And the thing is that you would think
rather than patience, right?
Yeah, it's counterintuitive because you would think if you know how they feel exactly. So that's why we have to be intentional about, okay, I know how you feel. And then, so I have to remember that I know how you feel. So that should make me more patient, right? Oh, Alonza. Yes. It's like when you're a prior smoker.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I have never smoked because I grew up with parents who smoked in the car with me with the windows up and all that kind of thing. So I just always have been like, nope. So, but there are other things that I completely identify with that because it's the same. It's exactly right. Anything that you've done previously where you've cut that out and then you like don't have any patience for it later, you're like, you need to get it together.
Well,
but you should know how they feel and be compassionate instead. And the way God would see this is look how did Jesus act with people? He'd never been there. Keep in mind, he'd never sinned or whatever. He'd never been in their place, but he knew how to love them through God's eyes.
But he understood the temptation though.
He did understand. Yes, that's true. He understood the temptation, not the sin.
Yes.
But he knew how to love people through God's eyes because he could see them through God's eyes because he was God.
Yes.
So, but it's like, that's how we need to be intentional. It's okay, wait a minute. How would God see this person where they are? How has God seen me in the past? That's another really big way, really powerful way to have compassion, kindness, and love is to say, how does God see me? And how has he seen me in the past when I was pulling my shenanigans?
Oh, okay. All right. So one of the biggest, when we're talking about people, okay, that are similar to us, they're going through something that we went through in the past, and who's most likely to be that way? Our children, right?
Yeah.
They are our mini me's.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
Oftentimes they take the traits. Well, number one, they take the traits and habits because they're around us. But sometimes it's just, genetically they do the same thing or have the same habits or whatever. But because of that, we get impatient with them.
Yeah.
They're not picking something up as quick as we would like them to, or they're making mistakes like we did when we were a kid. I know exactly what you're thinking. How many times I know that look on your face. I know exactly what you're thinking.
I know what you're doing.
I did it, right?
Yeah.
And so you're kind of
projecting.
Yeah, you're projecting and you're judging them on something before they even done it.
That seems fair.
Like Minority Report, right? Anyway, but if we take a moment and think about that, just like what you said, how would Jesus had treated them? Okay, understanding the temptation and the sin, how would he treat our children?
Right.
How would he show his love and compassion through whatever you're dealing with your children? And that's one of the things that we need to reflect on as parents. Look, sometimes we're oh man, this is hard, right? We're fighting this disease while we're raising teenagers, right? And they're flexing all their new found freedoms or personalities, and they're really trying to figure life out, and they're making a lot of boneheaded decisions, and they have a lot of emotions, a lot of hormones flying around, and we're trying to do this while we're going through the hardest battle of our lives.
And teenagers not every teenager, I don't want to like pigeonhole it, but most teenagers are just they don't have the propensity to be like, hey, I'm going to put everyone before myself and I'm going to think about
all teenagers. No.
I've met a handful of teenagers who are actually like this. Generally, they have to go through all their own stuff to get there. But most teenagers are just like, they're not trying to be jerks. Like they just don't have the propensity to be like, put everyone before myself. And
no, like I said, they're just trying to figure life out oftentimes. Yeah. But when I say that, because when I was a lot younger, and my older kids,
you had teenagers.
They were teenagers at the time, and it was really a struggle to deal with whatever they were bringing home and whatever they were bringing home, and also try to focus on being around and getting better and healing. And there was a lot of frustrating times and a lot of stress that I put on myself because I wanted to, again, back then I was operating on my old self, how I handled things before, and my capabilities that I had before.
Yeah.
And what I didn't realize is God was really changing everything in my life. Yeah. He was changing my approach. He was changing my approach to my children and my approach to life. And what I found later is that I needed to be more about God's love, God's patience, rather than putting my needs, myself first, because I've often talked about that, where everybody needs to understand me, while I didn't even understand myself.
Well, a couple of things you mentioned there got me thinking. One of the things too we need to remember from these different perspectives when we're talking about fighting heart disease or really any major health issue. Couple things. One is we need to remember that this whole idea that, well, that's not how I would react to that when you've never been through something. I mean, fill in the blank. It doesn't matter what we're talking about. I love this one. That's not how I'm going to raise my kids. Oh, you're hilarious. Let's not ever say that again. You just don't know until you do it, man. You just don't. And the same thing goes for something life-threatening. I mean, we could say parenting's life-threatening. I don't know. Depends on the day. But anyway. Okay. But when something hits you like heart disease, it's like, I mean, what am I going to be like? Well, that's how I would react, or I would do this, or I would do that. And then you're blaming the person who's fighting heart disease as a caregiver, as a support person. We need to practice serious love and compassion and kindness and patience with kindness, because we don't know. Everybody's at different place in their journey. So how about this? Even if I would react differently, let's say, even if and this isn't really a conversation we've ever had, but I know that other people have. But even if I would react differently, that doesn't mean that I'm him. Like, you have to be patient and kind with this. And then when you're dealing with what you were just talking about with facing heart disease and saying you have to have more love and patience and kindness, taking the adversity, we've talked about this before, like having the adversity at all should be the catalyst to creating more peace and love and kindness in your life. Because what's important now that I faced mortality, now that I faced, possibly the end of my life, like, oh, okay, well, what's important now? Is it the small stuff, right? Or is it the important stuff?
Yeah.
Because sometimes people end up being more petty and more impatient after that because they're dealing with so much chaos. However, a lot of people, you've seen people go through that. Well, I had a second chance at life, and so everything changed. Everything was more important.
Sure.
I knew it was more important. Jeff says the rebuild is better than the build. What? No. I love it. But yeah, you were talking about that. That's funny.
That's true.
But the thing is it's not that it's, I don't think that's funny that you bring that up. Because so in his interview, Jeff brought up that people were like, oh, it's the best part is the rebuild. And he was like, I already built this and then it got broken down. I don't want to rebuild it. And what I actually want to say about that I think is so interesting is that I think that's a false statement. I don't think we should ever be rebuilding anything. I think if it gets torn down by something, we should be building something new. We should be building something better. We should be saying, okay, what's the next version of this then? Because I don't want to rebuild something I already took time to build. If this is an opportunity God's given me through adversity to build something. And I think that's what Jeff did. I think that's what you did.
Exactly right. That's what I was going to say.
And that's what I think you said during your interview is really like, this was different, but it was better than I had expected. This was something that God was giving me that I just wasn't expecting. But now I know that this is what I wanted.
So oftentimes we don't even give ourselves the opportunity to experience that.
Because we have our own stuff in mind.
Because we get so caught up in what we lost, who we think we lost in ourselves. We get then caught up in that fight or flight emotion and feeling. We stay there. Mm-hmm. And that's what we're really, and I want to shift this conversation to the other relationships in our lives.
Yeah.
We get so caught up with the emotion of what we lost, who we think we were, and I want to get back to who I used to be, or get back to normal.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
And then, but in doing that, it's fight or flight. And we get so caught up in that. We do this on a daily basis. It becomes habitual.
Right.
So much so we don't see the damage that we're doing to everything around us and everyone around us. We are impatient. We aren't considerate. Look, our spouses, our friends, the closest people to us are affected by this disease also. They're going through a lot of emotional pain also. They may have seen you die.
Yeah.
And they may have seen you being brought back to life in seconds, that like hours. They lost you, and then you're back. And they don't want to go through that again. They don't want to see you through that again. So they start treating you with like you are a broken piece of china that has been glued back together. And that gets frustrating for you, doesn't it? Because every day, well, what's this? Any little look or twinge on your face or whatever, what's wrong?
Yeah.
And make sure not to do this, make sure not to do that. Yeah. And it gets irritating.
Well, and on the other side, for a caregiver, right? It's hard because it's hard for everybody, but just for the different perspectives here. For someone like in my position, you would be dealing with, well, now you don't want my help anymore. Now you don't care about my opinion. Now you don't, this is what we see a lot. And when we're talking to people and we're coaching them, man, there's so much miscommunication because it's like, well, he doesn't love me anymore. How do you know that? Well, because of all these reactions. Well, those reactions are strictly because of your reactions or because of heart disease, because of their reactions to themselves, to their own journey. And it's not being communicated correctly. Right. So we're all kind of reacting.
You start interpreting communication as, well, I'm communicating with him or her because I'm reading what is coming off of them.
Yeah. Yeah. We all start their reaction.
Right. Reacting. Exactly.
Instead of responding.
And so that becomes all misplaced. And then it becomes imbalanced, right? That's where the imbalance in the relationships start to it starts at a slow wobble, and then pretty soon things get out of control. And so my whole point is it's not that the people around us need to be patient with us, the people that are fighting this disease and have to battle it, wake up and battle it every day, is that we also need to be patient with and understanding of what they're going through. And you need to really openly talk to those individuals. If there was on the day of your heart attack or the day of your event, if they were around, or even if they got the phone call, have a discussion with them, what they went through.
Yeah.
And let them talk, let them feel. So where they were at, where they were emotionally, and why they feel the way they do. Because look, especially guys like Jeff and myself too, early on, I just wanted to get back out there. I wanted to get active. There was no way that this disease was going to take me out.
Right.
And yeah. I needed to get active again because I felt like if I didn't do that, then that itself is dying.
Right. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And so you go out and you start doing that. Heck, it's funny because I had two different extremes, right? I talked about how my teenage kids, perfectly capable, strong teenage kids, they couldn't get their butts up and and shovel snow. This was like maybe 2 weeks after my bypass surgery or whatever, and they couldn't get out and shovel their own cars out of the driveway. I had to get out and do it. Yeah. And what's happening? I'm shoveling, and they're standing around building freaking snowmen. Like, 5-year-old. And
but you're not bitter.
No, not at all. But there's that. But I went and did it, and I was proud of myself. It took a lot out of me. But at the same time, you want to go out and go back out to the gym, or are you sure you should do that?
Oh, and they're like, are you sure you should do that? Yeah.
Right.
But that's probably why they made you shovel snow, because you were like, yeah. And they were like, golden shovel to snow.
Right. Right. But anyway, so does that make sense, what I'm trying to say?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I wanted to bring this up too. Dealing with comments from those who don't get it. Be careful. You need to be safe. Take it easy. My doctor says we want people to celebrate with us and reach these milestones again. Yeah. I mean, it's hard because you're like, I'm trying to do all those things. And but it's so counterintuitive. Everybody wants you to be careful and not do anything. Yet stagnation is what breeds disease.
Exactly.
Like sitting around, that's what breeds disease. Yes, there are places where you should not go to, like in your, not places, but like levels. You should, have a governor, on your exercise. Sure. But what's interesting to me too? I want to make a point about exercise real quick. Have you ever heard of anybody who's pregnant and doing things like horseback riding or sports or construction? I've seen women doing construction pregnant, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what do people say? Should you be doing this? You're pregnant, right? Every doctor who's ever said anything to any pregnant woman ever said the same thing. This is across the board. I've heard it for my whole life. I heard it myself when I was pregnant. Is that if you were doing it before you were pregnant, then your body already knows how to do it. And you've already adapted to this activity. And so you can do it when you're pregnant. No, you should not take it up as a new activity if you've never done it before when you're pregnant. That goes across the board. So I would say the same thing, like for instance, like Jeff. Jeff was a triathlete, right? Before all this happened. Well, then you can go back to that. I'm not going to take up being a triathlete after a heart attack. I've never done any of that thing before right away. I mean, maybe I would work into that eventually.
Well, he knew he couldn't take his body through that, but
I mean, I'm talking about just the physical activity he wanted to get back to. That everybody was like, I don't know, you probably should be a mall walker. What? No, I think I could go back to at least some sort of version of this because my body was already conditioned for this. That's what I'm saying.
Yes.
If your body's not conditioned for that, and then you want to take that up after a heart attack, well, that's a different story than a triathlete taking up exercise after a heart attack.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. So everybody gets these across the board comments that they give you, and they're trying to, be protective. Well, that's when you have to react with love and kindness. Talking about love today. It's like, how do you react in love with all these things? And it's like understanding that they don't understand that. They don't understand. They're not the ones going through it. That should be the number one reason. You're not the one going through it. They don't understand. We don't understand as people who haven't been through this. Like, we're just trying to be loving. That is our version of loving. And by the way, really, our version of loving and patience and kindness kind of, I think for everyone involved, everyone goes out the window a little bit when you're dealing with emergency situations you've never been in before. When everything is chaos and you're dealing with something new you've never done, who you are sort of is put to the test. Like, well, obviously who you are is put to the test, but all of a sudden somebody will be doing stuff. You're like, what? When did that happen? Like all of a sudden, have you seen those movies where like somebody is all like fine and they're strong and they're rough, and then like emergency happens and they're like, ah, and they run and hide in the corner, and you're like, where'd that wimp come from? Like all of a sudden they can't. And then there's like the guy who they have been portraying up until that point, like the wimpy guy who like all of a sudden saves the day. He's like, I've got it in me, and then he like saves the day. And you're just like, wow, that guy was a total like wuss bag. He's over there in the corner like crying, and so it totally shows what you've got going on for real. Mm-hmm. But we don't know that until this happens, and all of a sudden the reactions of people are different than you expected, and you're just like, you have to be loving and kind, and that are also okay. Back to real words. Our reactions are also different. Yesterday we were talking about how when I'm dealing with my own health, by the way,
yeah,
I'm a basket case when it comes to my own health. Like I'm like, what's happening? Like I have to try to force myself to react the same way to myself that I do to my family. When my family has a medical emergency, I am like a calm and collected like warrior. I mean, everything's happening. I am dealing with it. I am not over emotional. I can handle it. I'm like handling everything, right? I'm calming everybody down. I've got I'm talking to the doctors. I'm listing off stuff. I'm multitasking. It's happening, right? When it's me, I'm like, I think my heart rate's going up. Is I okay? It's like, a totally different person. And so, I totally get when you say, you just never know. You never know how you're going to react in different situations. And so being patient and loving and kind. I mean, this man like sees me turn into a completely different human when it's something that I'm dealing with myself.
Well, that's,
and you've got to be like, okay, it's okay.
Well, exactly. I mean, like we said at the beginning of the broadcast today, we had our second COVID shot yesterday, and you reacted
I had a total
instantly.
a reaction to it. Yeah. And so I like got super dizzy and like my heart rate went up and I got flushed and I had splotches on my face. So they had to give me Benadryl.
But the thing is the more we pointed it out to you, the worse you got.
The worse I got.
And then I realized, okay, let's focus on other things here.
Yeah, it was weird. My body started doing that weird shaky reaction it does, like when you're.
But that's because your blood pressure started to skyrocket.
I was fine after about an hour, but I mean, it was like, that's when I realized, I'm like, man, I looked at him, I go, babe, it's so weird. I'm like a totally different person when it's me. Cause I was like I had to force myself to like talk myself down and do the things that I don't naturally talk to myself is what I'm saying. Like I do to them when it's me. I have to remember intentionally what's happening. I have to.
I didn't go, what's wrong with you? No. Why are you letting this happen to yourself? It's all in your head.
Right.
I could,
No, exactly. He knew what was going on, but he's learned to just be like, okay,
we're
going to talk about
because
something
I would pay for it later.
Because you pay for it later, whatever. Alonzo, I want to bring up your comment. It can be extremely unbearable for the younger ones. My youngest is so fearful of me dying. We are working on his fear daily. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh my gosh. That is such a hard one. That's a hard one because you're talking about kids. With adults, it's different because you can kind of like go to a therapist if you need to or whatever. And actually, have you taken him to, or him or her? I don't know. You said he. Is it he? We are working him. Yeah, sorry. Yeah. I was like, wait a minute. Did I read into that? So have you taken him to like a counselor for this or, because there's people that specialize in this exact thing.
Yeah. But the thing is as you are taking him through his journey, through this, remember that
he does go to a therapist. Good.
You remember, you need to also be open to what is happening to you through that same journey. Because taking him through his journey and getting healed and to manage this, you can be blessed. You can find tools to help you through the same thing. And what I found especially with my daughter and with her battles, she's seen since she was a baby, I've been fighting this disease. But then recently, last few years, she was diagnosed with her autoimmune disease. And we do things together now. We work out together. I'm in charge of her daily exercise and making sure she's staying on task.
We all eat the same healthy food.
When we do things, sometimes we have to do certain things together to help manage whatever symptoms. We do this together. And then we take her to therapy and we learn things from her therapy. And then we do that with her.
Yeah, she goes to physical therapy and then also biofeedback therapy.
So we doing these things together not only helps them, it forms that relationship. It also goes right back into what we're talking about today. That showing love through that by standing next to them, showing patience and understanding. We understand them better. They understand us better. Okay. And you're building that trust and that communication moving forward. So when things do go south, when things do go wrong, they know that you are there with them.
Oh, absolutely. She says, my journey is autoimmune, not heart. Yeah. But he has seen it since birth. Yeah. Yeah. So our daughter has connective tissue disorder and amplified pain syndrome and a few other things, but, yeah, exactly. So it's always been there. Right. I would say this, one of my number one, advice pieces to people who want to know how come we're not in fear all the time. How come I'm not constantly, I've met wives and husbands, but a lot of women come to me and, talk about how is it that you're not constantly, like paralyzed by fear? How come you're not like crippled by this worry about him dying all the time? It's okay. So first of all, it's not like I don't have thoughts about it. It's not like I'm not like, he was quiet in the room for too long. I'm going to go check on him. Like, For real. That's a real thing. Like after something, happens to your child, don't you check on them way more? Like I'm not going to be the person that lets somebody be in a room for 30 minutes quiet and think that's nothing after everything we've been through. Right. So I go check. Yeah, for sure. But here's the thing. I've learned that it is what it is. This is what we have in our life. If we do everything we need to do to make sure we can combat this with fitness, exercise, we're both on board, making sure, okay, he's taking care of himself. Okay. So that will help with the fear. Like we're doing this together. But one of the number one things is this: teaching, especially children, will the fear or worry fix it? Will my fear or worry make this go away? Will it fix it? Will it prolong it? Will it keep you from dying? Will it keep that from happening? No, it will not. It will not help the situation in any way, shape, or form whatsoever. There is no positive thing that can come from it. However, it can and most likely will negatively affect the situation. Not only can it make it happen, can it make it worse? If I was constantly worried about you and coming to you and being, crippled by fear all the time, that would stress you out beyond anything.
Absolutely.
And it would make his situation actually physically worse. I could actually worsen it. And the other thing is that now, why don't I want him to die? Right? Because I want a happy life with him, right? I am actually crushing that possibility of having a happy life while we are here together. Right. Any possibility of having the life that I'm trying to salvage by being afraid of him dying, I'm actually killing by having worry and fear all the time. So that's something that I have.
And what happens is I stop communicating.
Right. So, because you don't want to freak me out.
So I don't want to freak you out. I don't want to have that discussion because I know what's coming. I'm going to say this, I'm going to do this. And then you're going to do these next steps because you start predicting the future based on other types of reactions.
Yeah.
And so you stop communicating and then the communication breaks down. And pretty soon that feeds into other communication problems and you're not talking. And then who's happy anymore? I'm not happy because I can't even express my feelings.
Right.
I can't even tell the person closest to me what's really happening to me.
Right.
Because I don't want to worry or I don't want you to start to launch. Right. So
we operate as a team instead. And of course we both have our normal reactions to things, but we don't sit around being in fear and being in worry. That's not where we operate. That's not where we live, because otherwise, what are we doing here? I wanted to bring up her other comments here. So she has connective tissue and he has simple complex seizures. Oh, I'm so sorry. But also, I love this. My belief is our own fear affects us negatively. Oh, 100,000%. Yeah. That's not only your belief, but that's the fact. And staying in the present moment. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, it's facts. I mean, here's the thing. We've talked about this lots and lots, and I'll bring it up again. This is just a short version, but we build connections in our brain, neuro connections. Okay. Our neurons or brain cells connect, and they are called synapses. And that makes a connection or a thought pattern. So it's like a little freeway of your thought. And you can build that or you can break that. And the way that happens is creating new thoughts that replace those old ones. And when you have that worry, you break it with a new one that says it's love and kindness, right? And patience and hope. And you find a thought that's the opposite of the thought that's plaguing you. You say, okay, I'm going to create this opposite thought. And I'm going to, on purpose, intentionally, say that thought to myself. I know it sounds crazy, but it's science. It's scientifically proven. This is why it takes 21 days to build or break a habit, because it takes 21 days to build or break the connection in your brain. So that's what that's related to. So it's not just being positive and being like, oh, I'm just going to start being positive and then I'll just end up positive. It's more complicated than that, but it's actually not complicated to do. So you're just going to replace the thought with a new one. You have to be intentional. You have to do this on purpose. So the idea here, the reason I'm going here is because we're talking about love and kindness today and heart disease. Sometimes we have to be intentional in our thoughts and actions and words, even if we don't believe them yet, even if we don't care.
Yeah.
Do we want to live where we are? And do we want to change that? So if we want to change that, then we need to be doing something different. We need to be thinking something different. And sometimes we have to be intentional and practical about our practices in order to get there until we believe it. Sometimes you're doing something because you know that it works, even if you don't believe what you're saying. You can fool your brain into it. You can. It's a weird thing. I've done it. It's a weird thing. But you can say, nope, I believe this. Nope, this. Nope, this. No, no, no. When you have a child who will constantly touch something, they're like, I'm going to do this. This is my pattern. I'm going to touch it. And you constantly go, nope, nope, nope. Eventually they stop. They learn that that's not what you do. And that when they reach, you're going to stop them. Okay. It's a connection pattern. It's a pattern. You can stop it intentionally. It takes some time. But that if you replace the negative worry and chaos and fear with love and kindness in God's word and his love, and you pray about this stuff, you got to bring God into the situation. You just do. You can't just do all of this stuff on your own. Everything we're saying today has to be done with God, because not only will it be more powerful, but it'll be more genuine, because God is love.
Right. Because that's the whole idea of prayer. That's the whole concept of prayer, is that we're reaching out to God, to tapping in, involving him into our lives, and creating that relationship with him. And therefore he, through his power, his mercy and his love, we're able to do these things.
Right.
But when we oftentimes we don't have enough power or strength to get us to do that very thing. Right. Or even if we do, it takes us a lot longer, a lot more pain. God wants us to rely on him fully, completely, and his power.
Right.
Right.
Well, exactly. I mean, it takes so much less time when we're like letting God multiply our efforts, when we're letting God heal us, but we have to be on board. We have to participate. Exactly. Yeah.
All right.
So this is I'm excited for this week. I think talking about kind of how do we bring love into our lives? How do we bring it back into our lives? How do we bring it into our children's lives? I love that we got there. We went there today, and the people around us, and just sort of understanding, just being so much more compassionate and understanding and kind and patient about the process of dealing with heart disease, I think would probably kill a lot of the problems that we end up having. It would destroy those. They just wouldn't be issues.
Right.
We would just be past those, because we'd be able to just never have them happen.
Now look, we say
a lot of it's communication issues.
Yeah, we say all these things, and we understand that life can be stressful. There is evil in the world.
Yes.
And there are terrible things that happen. Yes. However, just like what you were saying about the neural repatterning, okay? If we are practicing love and patience all the time, that equips us for those times when that's really challenged. When we are faced against something or a circumstance that is terribly evil or terribly sad, we are equipped. But if we constantly operate in fear, anger, bitterness, all of the tools of the enemy, that's how we're going to react when the chips are down.
Right.
We're going to react in fear. We're going to react in anger. Or the words are out of our mouth are going to be in bitterness. So why not start practicing today?
I want to bring this up.
Okay.
With me, patient with myself most of the time is why I can't get this. And then the thoughts come in and I start beating myself up. Even when I was a child, it's, why can't I get this? Why can't you do it as fast as everyone? And then when I was in treatment, I had this one counselor who would take time out of her morning and sit at the desk with me within the mirror in front of me. And she would tell I love you, and be patient with yourself, and give yourself time to heal. And it teaches me to be patient and love others. So I wanted to bring this up because I want to hit this, probably not right now because we're out of time, but I want to hit this week, is being patient and loving and kind with yourself when you're going through heart disease. Why can't I get this? Why can't I do this? And really beating yourself up, because that's when the enemy's going to get you. He's going to get you when you're down, right? He's going to try to lie to you and say, oh, you can't do this.
Absolutely.
You can't. So let's talk about being loving and kind and patient with ourselves. And we'll do that more this week. I'm sure it'll come up.
Yeah.
But thank you, Monica, for that. That's absolutely right. And I love that she had you sitting and looking in a mirror and saying, nope, I love you. And I'm patient with you, and be kind with yourself, because
that's awesome.
I love that. We can't expect others to be kind with us when we're not kind with ourselves.
Absolutely true. Absolutely true. And that's a lot of times, that's why we act the way we act.
Yeah.
Because we don't like what we're seeing in the mirror.
Yeah. Oh,
right?
yeah.
All right, guys, we are going to head out, but I hope you got something out of today. I'm looking forward to this week. I know I'm fidgeting. Sorry. Anyway, I hope you got something out of today. I know I did.
Mm-hmm. I did.
Just kind of walking it out and speaking it out. It really helps me. So if you did, please hit like and share this. Share this week's discussion with people. And because look, we all need to learn to be more loving and more patient with one another, especially now things are opening back up and we're starting to interact again. And we saw an example yesterday that wasn't a good example of good communication or interaction.
Yeah, it was fun.
So I think we really need to remember this. We all need to learn how to form new relationships again, right? And so I think that this week's discussion is very important. So share this with your friends and family, and come back tomorrow and all the other days through till Saturday, and interact with us and talk to us about this.
Thank you guys for coming today. Yeah, it's been great. Thanks, Alonzo. I appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks, Monica. Thanks, Jeff. We really appreciate the interaction. It just makes these.
Makes some discussions.
It makes a real discussion, right? It's just not us talking.
Yeah, we don't want it to just be us two talking heads. We really want you guys to come on and have these discussions with us, because the more that are involved, the better the discussion.
Absolutely. So we just continue to just invite you, and we thank you guys for taking time out of your day.
All right. So have an amazing rest of your day, and we will see you tomorrow.
Bye.
Bye-bye.